All right, let's get going. So I'm going to have you guys start standing up. I want to review the pelvic floor activation and transverse abdominis activation before we get into a little bit harder of exercises. We're going to review some stuff from last time and then try and work on that. So starting with activating your pelvic floor, so doing that squeeze and lift motion, and then pulling your abdominal muscles in. Everybody feel that working? Really focusing on this lower transverse part. Let everything relax and do it again. So squeeze and lift. Pull the TA in. Good. Now what I want you to do is add in a little bit of a squat. So thinking about pushing your hips back almost like you're going to sit in a chair, really focusing on keeping the tummy muscles pulled in. Usually what I find is the lower you go, the harder it is to keep this engaged. So just throwing in a little bit of movement with it. Let's go 3 more. Is it staying engaged for everyone? Hopefully. Good. Relax. Okay. And now down on the floor. So again, you're going to stick your fingers right inside your hip bone and go ahead and lay flat and bend up your knees. Good, come on in. So from here, do your pelvic floor squeeze and lift, pull the tummy muscles up and in, and just feel that light tensioning of the muscle under your fingertips. We're just making sure that you're turning on the right muscles, and do that a few times, just kind of waking everything up. It should just feel, again, like a light tensioning, almost like you're trying to pull all the wrinkles out of a fitted sheet when you're making the bed. Good. And then we're going to work on that pelvic tilt back again, so you're engaging your core, and then thinking about tucking your tailbone under, like between your legs. So bringing your pubic bone up towards your belly button, focusing on doing that motion from the lower abdominals. So you're going to engage first, a little bit of a tilt. It's almost like a reverse crunch, and then relax. And do about 5 more of those, just waking up those lower abdominal muscles. All right, so now what I want you to do is do that pelvic tilt. Go until your lower back presses the floor, so it's pretty flat. And then I want you just to back off a little bit. So there should still be a little bit of a curve in your lower back. This is going to be your neutral position. We don't want to go too far one direction. So going all the way flat, backing off a little bit, and this is the position I want you to maintain with your pelvis. So if you keep your hands on that bony part of your hips, you want this to maintain stability. So doing a little bit of a march, just lifting the legs about 6 to 8 inches off the floor and tapping back down. Not letting one hip dip too much. So you really have to focus on keeping the TA engaged and maintaining that neutral spine. If you find that you're getting a big shift in your hips, don't lift your foot up quite as much. Just do very small marches, trying to keep the hips level. I'm going to go about 15 more seconds here. Okay, questions there? Everybody good? Okay, so now making it a little bit harder, so bringing legs up into this 90-90 position. We did these last week. Again, I want you to keep the neutral spine, so your back is not totally pressed against the floor. There's a little bit of a curve there. And then tapping heel down on one side, bring it back up to the 90-90, and tap the other side down. Remembering to breathe, keeping the belly button pulled in towards your spine. Now, if this is too easy, you can start to extend your leg out a little bit more. Your legs are what act as the resistance to your core. So by extending your leg out a little bit further, makes it a little bit harder. Good, couple more here. And last one. And you're going to come up onto your hands and knees. So I want hands right under your shoulders, knees under your hips. Again, we're finding that neutral spine. So to do that, dip down really low so you're sticking your tailbone out. And then come up just a little bit. Good. Now pull belly button up towards your spine. And we're sticking a leg and arm out. Hold for just a second or two. And then come back in and switch. Good. Especially when you stick your leg and your arm out, really think about keeping that lower abdominal region pulled in. Nice and controlled movements. These might not feel like the hardest exercises, but they are some of the ones that get the best activation of your transverse abdominis. Thinking about a straight line from fingertips to your toes. And if you feel like your core disengages at any point, just come back to that hands and knees position and start over. Go one more and then back onto our backs for round 2. Okay, good. Okay, starting with our marches. Tilt back into that neutral position and lift, not letting the hips dip. About 15 more seconds, and then we'll go into our modified dead bug. All right, and bring those knees up, 90-90 here. And tapping down. Trying not to let the pelvis rock forward too much as you bring your heel down. Good, just a few more here. All right, back onto your hands and knees, last set of bird dogs. Finding your nice steady position first and then reaching out. Couple more. right, and rest. Okay, we're gonna move into some training with planks. I'm gonna show you it in a modified version, but you guys are welcome to go up onto your toes too. So we'll do it from the knees to start with, but if that's too easy, feel free to go up on your toes. We'll do front planks, and then we're gonna try some side planks as well. So with the front plank, we really wanna make sure that, again, our lower abdominals are staying engaged. So I'm going to have you do that same pelvic tilt that we were doing when you're laying on your backs on the floor. So if everybody goes down onto your tummy, we're gonna start with trying these tilts laying here first without even pushing up. So you're thinking about bringing the, trying to tuck your tailbone, almost trying to bring the pubic bone towards the belly button. Questions with that? And just by doing that motion, you should feel your core start to engage. Are we good? Okay, awesome. So now, once you've got that locked in, we're gonna come up onto our knees, or you can come up onto your toes. Whatever you are more comfortable with. And we're holding for about 30 seconds. Trying to keep that same tilt the whole time. If you're a little bit shaky, that means you're doing it right. I want you to think about creating tension through your whole body, so keep your glutes squeezed, your quads squeezed, and pressure into your mat. Got about 10 more seconds. And down. Now roll to one side. Going for some side planks. So I'm going to have you guys up on an elbow here, and you've got a couple options with a side plank. So hardest version, you're going to come up with your feet stacked. If you need to modify, put your bottom knee down. Okay, so core's engaged. You don't have to worry so much about the strong pelvic tilt here, as long as everything's staying engaged. Hips are stacked right on top of each other. Okay, and up. Good. Think about squeezing your bottom glute to help keep your hips up. And about 15 more seconds to go. Keeping that belly button pulled in. Two, one, and roll to the other side. Good, and when you're ready, coming up for another 30-second hold. Hips stacked on top of each other. Good. Should feel this a little bit in that bottom kind of side part of your hip, your glute med. So we're trying to keep our hip up. Go 5 more seconds. 3, 2, 1, and back onto our tummies. One more time through this. So before we get going, create that tension, kind of push your arms down into the floor, get your tilt, and once you've got your tilt, you're lifting your hips. And we've got another 30 seconds right here. Keep your glutes squeezed. Think about keeping the belly button pulled in towards your spine. Good, and then roll onto your side. Whichever side you want to start on. It's a little bit harder way to do a plank when you keep that pelvic tilt. All right, and lifting up. Nice job, guys. About 15 more seconds to go. Keep thinking about activating that transverse abdominis. And switch sides. And when you're ready, come up. And 10 more seconds. And down. All right, moving on to a little bit of hip strengthening. So I really believe that your core is pretty much from your hips all the way up through what people would consider their abs, through their trunk. So you're all gonna lay on your back. We're gonna start with a bridge. So from here, we really want to make sure that the focus is coming from the glutes, the power is coming from back here, and we're not just trying to, arch our back to get ourselves up here, but we're engaging our core first. You're pushing through your heels, you're squeezing your glutes before you even start to lift up, and then squeeze and back down. Squeeze and back down. We're going to do this for about a minute. And just hold that squeeze for about a second at the top. I don't want you to overarch your back. Think of just staying nice and flat as you bridge up. If you feel like you lose the core engagement on your way down, just take a second to re-engage it before you lift back up again. All right, good. Now roll onto one side. We're going to work on burning out one hip at a time, and then we'll burn out the other one. So we're going to work on clamshell. So if you come here, your knees are just bent up. Really important to keep your hips stacked on top of each other. If we're rolling back too much while we're doing this clamshell, we're going to work more of our hip flexor, and we really want to work our hip rotators. So core's pulled in. Think about pinching your heels together, so just slight pressure, and then lifting the top leg. If you start to notice that your hips roll back, go just a little bit less. Really getting a nice squeeze of the glutes as we come up. Go 5 more on this side. Good job keeping your hips stacked. All right, next one. Your top leg is going out straight and slightly back. Again, keeping your hips stacked. And we're lifting. Do about 20 of these. Still keeping those tummy muscles pulled in. By activating your transverse abdominis while you do this, you're going to be able to stay a little bit more steady. There's not going to be a big hip rocking motion. And go about 5 more. And rest for just a second. All right, next one. We've got hip circles. This is gonna be a burner. So we're holding our leg up here, and we're gonna go 10 counterclockwise and then 10 clockwise, or the opposite way. Keeping your hips really level. Just nice little circles. Feel a really good burn through the side of your hip. And once you've hit about 10, switch directions and let's go 10 more. Woo. All right, good job. Okay, we are rolling to the other side. Time to burn out the other hip. So starting with our clamshells. Hips stacked, pinch the heels together, keep the core engaged, and open. Think about actively squeezing your glute as you open up the knee. And let's go 3 more. 1, 2, and 3. Good. Now bringing that top leg out straight and slightly back. So you're out straight, slightly back. And lifting, getting a good squeeze of that lateral hip. Good job, guys. All right, we're going about 5 more. Right, rest for just a second, and then bring that leg up, and we've got our circles. About 10, and then switch directions. Nice and controlled throughout the whole circle. If you haven't switched yet, go ahead and switch directions and do about 10 more. And then when you're done with that, flip onto your back. We're going to do 1 more round of bridges, and then we are done. All right. So find that core engagement, squeeze your glutes, and press up. Getting a really nice squeeze. You might feel it a little bit extra from all the hip work we've just done. We're gonna go 10 more. And 2 more. 1 and 2. All done. All right. Your homework is to try some of these exercises at home at least one time, because we're going to progress even more next week, maybe trying to go up onto our toes with some planks, add in some rotational components, things that challenge us a little bit more. Okay. If you guys have any questions, I will be around for a few minutes after class. Welcome.